the inheritance that tore us apart. When their father passed, Michael and Claire expected only an inheritance, but what they received was a test of trust, loyalty, and buried family secrets. Forced to confront lies, jealousy, and decades of resentment, the siblings faced impossible choices that could either destroy them or finally bring them together. In a world where money, deception, and old wounds collide, who will survive the ultimate inheritance? The air was thick with tension in the dimly lit study. A single lamp flickered over the mahogany desk, casting long shadows on the walls lined with books that smelled of dust and old leather. Michael and Claire, siblings who hadn't spoken properly in years, sat stiffly in their chairs, their eyes locked on the thin envelope lying between them. Their father, recently passed, had left more than memories behind. He had left a will. And according to whispers from the family lawyer, it wasn't a simple division of assets. Claire, do you think he meant what he said about the inheritance? Michael's voice was cautious, almost breaking under the weight of years of bitterness. Claire's lips pressed into a thin line. If Dad meant anything, it's that he expects something from us. Something beyond just taking the money. The lawyer, an elderly man named Mr. Henderson, cleared his throat. As per your father's will, the inheritance will be distributed under certain conditions. Each of you must meet specific requirements. Failure to do so could result in a forfeiture of your portion. Michael's hand twitched nervously. Requirements? What kind of requirements? Mr. Henderson opened the envelope carefully, as if the paper itself were fragile. First, a demonstration of responsibility and maturity. Second, a reconciliation between you two. Your father believed that the years of hostility had poisoned the family bond, and he wanted that changed before any wealth could be released. Claire's eyes narrowed. Reconciliation? After all the years of betrayal and lies? You can't just fix years of resentment with a signature on a piece of paper. Exactly, Michael said, almost whispering. And you know how hard it's been between us. Dad never understood that. Or maybe he did, and that's why he left these tests. Mr. Henderson nodded. Your father's instructions are very clear. Any attempt to deceive or manipulate will nullify your inheritance. Both of you must pass the evaluation together. Alone, neither of you can claim it. The silence that followed was suffocating. Michael could feel the weight of Claire's disdain pressing down on him. They had grown up in a household where every achievement, every praise, and every allowance was measured and compared. Their father's favorites were never obvious, but the competition had been relentless. Do you remember the summer Dad promised to help you start college? Claire asked bitterly, her voice trembling with anger and old hurt. I watched you get that money, Michael, and I got nothing. Nothing. Michael flinched, guilt and irritation swirling together. I didn't. I mean, it wasn't fair, I know that, but I never asked for it. You know how he favored me in certain ways. You can't pretend it didn't happen. Don't you dare try to justify it. Claire snapped. You always found ways to take what you wanted, while I had to beg for scraps. And now he wants us to pretend we're close just to get a pile of money? Is that it? Mr. Henderson cleared his throat again. Perhaps it would help if you both took a moment to consider what your father truly wanted. He valued family above all, and he saw the growing distance between you as a tragedy. Michael leaned back, rubbing his forehead. I don't know if I can, if I even want to. Too much has happened. Lies, betrayals, everything. Claire's voice softened, almost reluctantly. I hate that I even think about it. But the money, it's not just money. It's everything Dad worked for. And he wanted us to share it fairly, even if he had to twist us into pretending to care for each other to do it. The room felt colder now, the shadows deeper. Mr. Henderson's eyes flicked between them, knowing this was only the beginning. Very well, he said finally. The first step is a series of evaluations. Tests. Tasks, if you will. And the first begins tomorrow. You'll need to cooperate fully, without deception. Only then will the inheritance be within your reach. Michael looked at Claire, and for the first time in years, he felt the faint stirrings of anxiety rather than resentment. Tomorrow, he muttered, we start pretending to care about each other. Claire's laugh was hollow. Pretending, yes. That's all this has ever been, hasn't it? And with that, they left the study, each carrying a storm of old grievances, fears, and the uneasy knowledge that their father's last act might finally shatter them, or, impossibly, bring them together. The next morning, Michael and Claire met at the sprawling family estate, the grand house feeling emptier than ever without their father's presence. The first test, as outlined by Mr. Henderson, was deceptively simple on paper. They had to organize their father's personal archives, a collection of letters, financial records, and journals, and categorize everything meticulously. But Michael and Claire both knew that the challenge was never just about paperwork. Claire crossed her arms, staring at the pile of yellowed letters and dusty files. So this is it? Sorting old papers? I could do this blindfolded. Michael glanced at her, trying to suppress a smirk. Yes, because obviously you have so much experience dealing with Dad's mess. Remember last Christmas when you lost the investment documents? That was one time. Claire snapped. And you weren't exactly perfect either. You left his checkbook in the freezer. Michael groaned. That was a joke. And he laughed, at least, I think he did. They began working in tense silence. Each paper seemed heavier than the last, loaded with memories and hidden resentments. As they sifted through envelopes, Michael's fingers trembled as he pulled out a thick letter addressed to Claire. Hey, this one's for you, he said reluctantly, holding it out. Claire snatched it and tore it open. The letter was from their father, written months before his passing. My dear Claire, I know you have felt neglected at times. I regret not being able to show you the care I intended. I hope one day you understand that my actions were never meant to hurt you. The inheritance is not about money alone. It is a chance to heal. Michael and you must find a way to respect each other, even if it seems impossible. Claire's hands shook, and for a moment, the anger softened into something almost like sorrow. Hey, he really did think about us, didn't he? Michael cleared his throat, avoiding her gaze. I guess he did, but that doesn't mean it'll be easy. You know me, and you know me well enough to know I'm not about to suddenly be your best friend. Best friend? Claire's laugh was bitter. I'm not asking for friendship, Michael. Just civility. And maybe honesty. Do you even remember what honesty is in this family? Michael hesitated. I remember. And I remember all the times you lied to get what you wanted too. Their voices rose, echoing through the empty halls. Just as tensions threatened to boil over, a small alarm on Mr. Henderson's phone buzzed. A message appeared. Observation in progress. Cooperation required. Claire and Michael froze, realizing that they weren't just being tested on their ability to organize files. They were being watched. Every gesture, every word, every subtle glance mattered. Looks like we're under surveillance, Michael muttered. Claire rolled her eyes. Great. So now we have to pretend even harder. Happy? They continued sorting the documents, each secretly scrutinizing the other for weakness, trying to figure out how far the other would bend before snapping. Michael discovered a folder labeled Financial Secrets, which detailed investments, debts, and even some hidden assets. Claire noticed and raised an eyebrow. You always find the important stuff first, don't you? She said quietly, suspicion creeping into her tone. Michael shrugged. Not always. But maybe this is part of the test. To see if we try to hide things from each other. Claire's face hardened. Well, don't even think about it. I'll know. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, and the pile of sorted files grew smaller, but the tension never lifted. Every word was loaded with unspoken accusations, every glance a reminder of past betrayals. And yet, amid the bitterness, something fragile began to stir. The realization that perhaps, just perhaps, they needed each other to succeed. As they closed the final folder, Michael sighed. We did it, at least the sorting part. And we didn't kill each other. Claire shot him a brief, sarcastic smile. Congratulations. Let's see how long that lasts. Before they could leave, another message from Mr. Henderson appeared. Next test. Honesty and integrity. Be prepared to face truths you've long avoided. Michael and Claire exchanged a wary glance. Whatever lay ahead, it was clear their father's tests were not about money. They were about exposing the wounds that had festered for decades. And somewhere deep down, they both knew this was only the beginning of a journey that could either destroy them completely or force them to confront everything they had buried inside. The second test began the following morning. Mr. Henderson's instructions were simple in words, but fiendishly complex in practice. Michael and Claire had to spend a full day managing their father's remaining business affairs, making decisions as a team. Success required cooperation, transparency, and trust. 3 things neither sibling had in years. Claire glanced at the folder with the business ledgers. We're supposed to work together, but every decision counts. He's basically forcing us to cooperate under pressure. Michael nodded, his jaw tight. Yeah, and every mistake could cost us more than just money. It's reputation, credibility, inheritance. And we both know how competitive Dad made us. The day started with minor tasks, approving bills, signing checks, answering emails. But tension escalated quickly. Wait a second, Claire said, frowning at a report. Michael, did you authorize that vendor payment? It's way higher than usual. Michael leaned over, scanning the document. I might have adjusted it, but only because they delivered extra services. I didn't want to waste money unnecessarily. Claire's eyes narrowed. You didn't want to waste money? Or you wanted to look good to Dad's records? You always do this. You manipulate things to favor yourself. I'm not manipulating anything. Michael snapped. I'm making a practical decision. And don't act like you haven't tried to sneak funds into your projects before. Claire's hands shook as she slammed the ledger onto the desk. You have no idea how angry I've been all these years. Every time you got something, it felt like a stab in the back. And now we have to pretend we're a team for a damn inheritance? Michael's voice softened slightly, almost regretful. I know. I've felt it too. Every slight, every unfair thing. But this is Dad's way of forcing us to face it. As the day progressed, small deceptions started to creep in. Michael discreetly held back some information about an upcoming contract he thought might favor him personally, while Claire selectively revealed details to make Michael look careless. Every action, every withheld truth, was a subtle test of the other's honesty. By mid-afternoon, the tension exploded. I know what you did, Claire accused, her voice sharp and unyielding. You didn't tell me about the Peterson deal because you wanted all the credit for yourself. Michael's face turned pale. What? No, I just thought. You always just think about yourself. You've never cared about me. She interrupted, her eyes flashing with decades of pent-up anger. I care. I do. Michael yelled, frustration cracking his voice. But you're always judging me, always accusing me of taking what's yours. Claire glared at him, fist clenched. Because you always have. Dad's tests don't change that. For a moment, silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. Both were breathing hard, hearts pounding. Then, almost simultaneously, they realized that their father's instructions were right in front of them. Honesty and integrity were essential, but impossible without confronting the buried resentments they both carried. Michael exhaled slowly. Maybe we can't do this perfectly, but we can try together, at least for today. Claire hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Fine, but if we're doing this, no secrets. Agreed? Agreed, Michael replied, though a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Trust between them was fragile. One misstep could ruin everything. By evening, they had navigated the day without disaster, though not without scars. Every document signed, every decision made, carried the weight of years of mistrust. Before leaving, Mr. Henderson sent another message. Observation complete. Next test, the confrontation of hidden truths. Be honest with yourselves and each other, or risk losing everything. Michael and Claire exchanged a wary glance. Both knew the next step would be the hardest yet, revealing the secrets, lies, and betrayals that had shaped their childhood. And deep down, neither was certain they were ready to face the truths that had festered for so long. As they left the estate, the setting sun cast long shadows on the driveway. Shadows that mirrored the tension between them, dark, deep, and impossible to ignore. The morning after their grueling day of business management, Michael and Claire returned to the estate, their steps heavy with unresolved tension. Mr. Henderson had sent them a single instruction. Today, confront the truths you have avoided. Speak openly. The inheritance depends on it. Claire was the first to break the silence as they entered the study. I don't even know where to start. How do you tell someone you've hated them and envied them for most of your life? Michael rubbed his forehead, feeling the familiar knot of frustration tighten. Maybe we start with the money, with all the unfairness. I don't want to lie anymore, and I guess you don't either. Claire's laugh was bitter. You think we can just talk about money after everything else? Dad never even treated us equally. Remember college? Remember the first car? Michael flinched. I remember, and I've hated myself for it too, Claire. But I also remember Mom leaving us alone with Dad's expectations. I think that's part of why we ended up like this. Always competing, always suspicious. Her eyes softened, though wariness remained. So you're admitting it wasn't all my fault? Michael nodded. It wasn't all yours, but we both made choices, bad ones. Lies, half-truths, manipulation. Maybe Dad wanted us to finally face that. Claire took a deep breath and hesitated. Then, almost as if afraid to speak, she confessed. I hid money from Dad once. You never knew. I thought he favored you, and I wanted something of my own. But it wasn't much, and it didn't feel like enough anyway. Michael's eyes widened. You hid money? She nodded, tears threatening to spill. Just a little. I thought it would give me control over my life, over my future. But it didn't fix anything. Michael swallowed hard. I manipulated one of Dad's investments too. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to be punished or seen as weak. I thought I was being smart. I guess we've both been selfish. The room was silent, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. It was the first time in years they had spoken openly without the veil of anger or accusation. Claire shook her head. But Michael, if we're being honest, we can't pretend this will make everything okay. I still don't trust you. I still hate how easy it was for you to get everything Dad ever promised. I know, Michael admitted, voice low, and I hate myself for it. But maybe if we survive this inheritance test together, we'll learn to stop hating each other. Or at least, to stop letting it ruin us. Before they could process further, Mr. Henderson's phone buzzed with a new instruction. Final test, the allocation. Decide together how the inheritance should be distributed, considering fairness, honesty, and shared responsibility. Any deceit, and the will is null. Claire stared at him. You're kidding. We have to decide now? After everything we've said? Michael nodded grimly. Yes, and I have to be honest. I don't know if I can do it without anger. I don't know if either of us can. Hours passed as they debated, argued, and dissected every detail of the inheritance. Each asset, account, and investment was scrutinized. Old wounds reopened. Claire accused Michael of hoarding opportunities, while Michael reminded Claire of the small deceptions she had committed. Finally, in a moment of rare clarity, Claire slammed her hands on the table. Enough. We can't keep fighting like this. We need to decide, or we get nothing. Dad wanted us to face this together, not tear each other apart one last time. Michael exhaled, shoulders slumping. You're right. Let's split it fairly. Everything Dad left, let's divide it equally. No tricks, no games. Just honesty. They reviewed the final numbers together, double-checking every account and property. For the first time in decades, they collaborated without malice. It wasn't perfect, they still carried resentment, but they managed to complete the task. Mr. Henderson appeared in the doorway, nodding. Well done. For the first time, you acted as a team, despite your differences. The inheritance is yours to share, as your father intended. But remember, this was never about money. It was about family. Claire and Michael exchanged a long look, the weight of years of anger and envy slowly lifting. They still had wounds that would take time to heal, but the day had marked a turning point. The beginning of understanding, the acknowledgement of mistakes, and a fragile bridge toward reconciliation. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light across the estate. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, they felt the faint stirrings of connection, something their father had desperately wanted them to rediscover. The morning after their grueling day of business management, Michael and Claire returned to the estate, their steps heavy with unresolved tension. Mr. Henderson had sent them a single instruction. Today, confront the truths you have avoided. Speak openly. The inheritance depends on it. Claire was the first to break the silence as they entered the study. I don't even know where to start. How do you tell someone you've hated them and envied them for most of your life? Michael rubbed his forehead, feeling the familiar knot of frustration tighten. Maybe we start with the money, with all the unfairness. I don't want to lie anymore, and I guess you don't either. Claire's laugh was bitter. You think we can just talk about money after everything else? Dad never even treated us equally. Remember college? Remember the first car? Michael flinched. I remember, and I've hated myself for it too, Claire. But I also remember Mom leaving us alone with Dad's expectations. I think that's part of why we ended up like this. Always competing, always suspicious. Her eyes softened, though wariness remained. So you're admitting it wasn't all my fault? Michael nodded. It wasn't all yours. But we both made choices, bad ones. Lies, half-truths, manipulation. Maybe Dad wanted us to finally face that. Claire took a deep breath and hesitated. Then, almost as if afraid to speak, she confessed. I hid money from Dad once. You never knew. I thought he favored you, and I wanted something of my own. But it wasn't much, and it didn't feel like enough anyway. Michael's eyes widened. You hid money? She nodded, tears threatening to spill. Just a little. I thought it would give me control over my life, over my future. But it didn't fix anything. Michael swallowed hard. I manipulated one of Dad's investments too. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to be punished or seen as weak. I thought I was being smart. I guess we've both been selfish. The room was silent, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. It was the first time in years they had spoken openly without the veil of anger or accusation. Claire shook her head. But Michael, if we're being honest, we can't pretend this will make everything okay. I still don't trust you. I still hate how easy it was for you to get everything Dad ever promised. I know, Michael admitted, voice low, and I hate myself for it. But maybe if we survive this inheritance test together, we'll learn to stop hating each other, or at least to stop letting it ruin us. Before they could process further, Mr. Henderson's phone buzzed with a new instruction. Final test, the allocation. Decide together how the inheritance should be distributed, considering fairness, honesty, and shared responsibility. Any deceit, and the will is null. Claire stared at him. You're kidding. We have to decide now? After everything we've said? Michael nodded grimly. Yes, and I have to be honest. I don't know if I can do it without anger. I don't know if either of us can. Hours passed as they debated, argued, and dissected every detail of the inheritance. Each asset, account, and investment was scrutinized. Old wounds reopened. Claire accused Michael of hoarding opportunities, while Michael reminded Claire of the small deceptions she had committed. Finally, in a moment of rare clarity, Claire slammed her hands on the table. Enough. We can't keep fighting like this. We need to decide, or we get nothing. Dad wanted us to face this together, not tear each other apart one last time. Michael exhaled, shoulders slumping. You're right. Let's split it fairly. Everything Dad left, let's divide it equally. No tricks, no games. Just honesty. They reviewed the final numbers together, double-checking every account and property. For the first time in decades, they collaborated without malice. It wasn't perfect, they still carried resentment, but they managed to complete the task. Mr. Henderson appeared in the doorway, nodding. Well done. For the first time, you acted as a team, despite your differences. The inheritance is yours to share, as your father intended. But remember, this was never about money. It was about family. Claire and Michael exchanged a long look, the weight of years of anger and envy slowly lifting. They still had wounds that would take time to heal, but the day had marked a turning point. The beginning of understanding, the acknowledgement of mistakes, and a fragile bridge toward reconciliation. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light across the estate. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, they felt the faint stirrings of connection, something their father had desperately wanted them to rediscover. The estate was silent that morning, the kind of silence that presses on your chest, heavy and foreboding. Michael and Claire had reached the last phase of their father's tests, the final allocation of the inheritance. Every account, property, and investment had been scrutinized, every potential dispute analyzed, but the ultimate challenge wasn't numbers. It was their ability to make a decision together, honestly, without letting old resentment dictate their choices. Claire paced the study, hands clenched. I still can't believe we made it this far. After all the lies, all the sabotage, and even external interference, we're here. But how do we decide? How do we split it fairly? Michael leaned back, weary but determined. We do it the way Dad wanted. Equally. Transparently. No tricks, no secrets. Everything is out in the open. Before Claire could respond, Michael's phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. Michael, if you push for an equal split, you'll lose Claire's trust forever. Take a larger share. It's your chance. He stared at the screen, feeling the familiar pull of temptation. He knew the sender, a distant family friend, wanted to reignite the sibling rivalry. His hand hovered over the phone, fingers trembling. Claire's eyes were on him, suspicious. Who's messaging you? Michael hesitated. No one important. Just noise. Ignore it. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Claire, too, received a text. Claire, you could claim the majority. Michael won't stop you if you take what's really yours. For a moment, silence enveloped them, heavier than ever. Both knew that acting on these messages could guarantee personal gain, but it would destroy the fragile trust they had rebuilt. Claire finally spoke, voice low and tense. Do you think we can trust each other enough to ignore this? To do what's right? Michael's jaw tightened. I want to, but part of me remembers everything. The envy, the anger, the years of unfairness. It's not easy to just forget that. Minutes stretched into an agonizing hour as they debated. They examined every number, every asset, every hidden note from their father's journals. And then, almost simultaneously, they reached a decision to divide the inheritance equally, with complete transparency, documenting every transaction in writing. I don't know if this will fix anything, Claire admitted, her voice trembling. But it's the right thing to do. For Dad, and maybe for us. Michael nodded. For Dad, and for us. No lies. No tricks. Everything out in the open. If we survive this, we survive together. They finalized the documents, their hands shaking as they signed each page. It wasn't a moment of celebration. It was a moment of fragile triumph, the culmination of decades of tension, envy, and betrayal. Just as they were about to place the final signature, Mr. Henderson entered, a rare smile on his face. Congratulations. You have succeeded, not just in dividing the inheritance, but in proving that the lessons your father wanted you to learn were possible. Trust, honesty, and cooperation, even after years of conflict. Claire exhaled, relief and exhaustion mingling. I can't believe it. We actually did it. Michael nodded slowly. I never thought I'd say this, but maybe Dad was right. Maybe we can be siblings, after all. Outside, the sun broke through a curtain of clouds, bathing the estate in warm, golden light. It was a new beginning, fragile but real. The inheritance, the money, and the properties mattered, but not as much as the realization that the bond between Michael and Claire, tested and battered, had finally begun to heal. For the first time in decades, the shadows of the past felt lighter, and the estate, once filled with resentment and rivalry, breathed with the promise of reconciliation. Weeks passed after the final allocation, and the estate gradually returned to a quieter rhythm. Michael and Claire moved through the halls with a new awareness. Every room a reminder of the battles they had fought and the truths they had finally confronted. The inheritance had been divided fairly, the documents signed and verified, and yet the real test, their relationship, remained ongoing. Claire sat in the study, holding one of their father's journals. It's strange, she said softly. Even with all the money, the accounts, the properties, the most valuable thing Dad left us wasn't that. It was the lesson. Michael leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. Yeah, he forced us to face ourselves. Our envy, our lies, everything. I don't think I realized how much anger I carried until we went through all of this. Claire smiled faintly, a mixture of exhaustion and relief. And I didn't realize how much guilt I carried. For hiding things, for thinking I was always the victim. It was all tangled up in the money, in Dad's favoritism. But now, it's like the air is clearer. We can breathe again. Their words were interrupted by a phone call. It was Mr. Henderson. Good evening, he said warmly. I just wanted to congratulate you both once more. Your father's tests were designed to push you to the brink, and you both succeeded, not because of greed, but because of integrity. That is something few can claim, even with the promise of wealth. Claire set the journal down. It wasn't easy. There were moments I thought we'd destroy each other instead of heal. Michael nodded, but we didn't. And maybe that's the point. Money can't fix relationships, but confronting the truth, maybe that can. For the first time, they shared a quiet moment of understanding. No words were necessary. The years of rivalry, resentment, and jealousy had been acknowledged and faced. While their bond would require time to fully mend, the foundation had been laid. Even outside the estate, news of the siblings' fairness and cooperation spread. Friends and relatives who had tried to interfere found themselves unable to sway them. Michael and Claire had weathered both internal and external storms and emerged stronger, cautious, but wiser. One evening, standing on the balcony, Claire looked out over the sprawling estate. Do you think we can really move forward? Michael glanced at her, a rare softness in his eyes. I think we have to. For Dad, and for ourselves. We can't change the past, but we can decide how the future looks. And this time, it's our choice, together. She nodded, a tentative smile breaking through. Together, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, golden rays over the estate. Shadows of old conflicts lingered, but they were now tempered by understanding, honesty, and a shared determination not to repeat the mistakes of the past. In the end, the inheritance had been more than money. It was a crucible, a test of character, loyalty, and the enduring complexity of family. Michael and Claire had faced their deepest fears, confronted their own flaws, and chosen to trust each other. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, they understood the true gift their father had left, not wealth, but the possibility of redemption, reconciliation, and a bond stronger than the bitterness that had haunted them for so long. For the first time, the estate felt alive, not with rivalry, but with hope.